And thanks for joining us, y'all, wherever you're joining in from, for this discussion tonight about the truth about police. I'm Bree. I'm a digital content manager at Push Black, and this is my lovely co-host. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Darren Wallace. I'm a video producer for Push Black, and I'm excited to speak with you all today about policing and about some of the myths and assumptions that hold policing intact in this country. So thank you so much again for joining us.
Yeah, and we can jump right into it. So the question that we're going to be like framing this discussion around tonight, that y'all can keep in mind throughout the discussion is, what does it mean when we say policing works? Tonight we're going to unpack a set of common assumptions and misconceptions regarding policing.
Yes, yes. So just to begin a little bit, kind of open up this discussion, let's just start with one of the most pervasive assumptions about policing in this country. That is, policing protects and serves vulnerable communities. And we do have a audience prompt. We have a question for you all, and feel free to kind of chime in through the chat. I'm curious, how have you experienced police interactions with our communities most vulnerable, such as children, unhoused folks, or persons enduring a mental health episode? I'm curious how you've experienced how police interact with these most vulnerable populations in our own communities. But just thinking further about this idea that policing actually protects and serves communities, um, one thing that came across in our research, a startling fact, I don't know if you knew this, Bree, but police officers in the US were charged with more than 400 sexual assaults and rapes over a 9-year period.
Mm.
Um, yes. So from 2013 to 2018, at least 30,000 children under the age of 10 were arrested in the US. And for kids between the ages of 10 and 12 years old, it's even worse. It's about 250,000 children who were arrested. Now, ABC reports that in the United States, at least 34 states have no minimum age for delinquency. So while most of the rest have a set age at 10 to 24, uh, many states have no minimum age to transfer a juvenile case to adult criminal court. And we know how this disproportionately impacts Black and Brown youth. Thinking a little further, about hundreds of officers commit rape and sexual assaults. It's been recorded between 2005 and 2013. So this is an average of about 45 a year, and this is based on victims were really who decided to come forward, right? Because we don't know how many folks who didn't come forward with this, and we know that most actually don't, because we know how the criminal justice or injustice system treats victims of sexual violence. So authorities really rarely address sexual violence or even test the massive backlog of rape kits.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we started off with this. Some of the facts are startling, but like, thank you for, starting with that and really exposing policing for what it is. And we're going to continue to do that. We've spent our whole lives hearing and subconsciously learning that policing is meant to protect and serve. And so we've come to know police as like these sort of saviors, when in actuality, policing brutalizes people, which is a lot more aligned with white supremacy than protecting and serving anyone, right? And
Yeah.
so another lie that I wanted to bring up, another common misconception, is that police are fighting violent crime and actually solving crimes, but it's actually quite the opposite. Um, so just a question for the audience, if anybody wants to pop down in the chat and let us know what you think. But would you say, and do you think that police spend more time doing routine tasks like traffic stops or solving violent crimes? And let us know why. Um, so uh, digged into some of our Push Black stories and found that the New York Times has actually reported that officers spend much of their time handling routine tasks like calls and traffic stops. And only about 4% of their time, 4%, is spent handling violent crime. According to Vox, in the time that is spent handling that violent crime, police are much less likely to solve homicides for Black people. So y'all are already not spending time doing what you say you're doing. And then the time that you are, it's harming Black communities. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for example, in New York City, 86% of homicides involving white victims were solved in the 2013 data analysis, compared to 45% for Black victims. So a stark difference. Yeah.
Wow.
And these facts just show us that the system of policing rarely actually stops or solves violent crimes, especially in Black communities, right? And so, just like prisons and jails, police often cause the Black community more harm than help. And that's something that we really have to remember throughout this conversation and beyond in our, everyday lives. Policing isn't protecting us as it claims to, as we've been taught that it does, and we don't need the system. But we do have to remember that policing is working as it was designed, which is in opposition of our people, right? So we know that the system is set up for police in ways it's set up for them to win and to be in opposition of us. So we have to understand that in order to move forward and make a difference.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much for breaking that down. This is like a perfect segue into our next kind of subtopic. Just thinking about how police don't actually solve crimes, but actually, in many cases, they actually do commit crimes. So I want to talk a little bit about racist gangs and their connections within the police itself. So
Mm,
racist gangs are a known fact in some police departments around the country in the US. They even have initiation practices that can involve sexual abuse and even murders. So for instance, gangs such as the Spartans, Regulators, Grim Reapers, and Banditos, these are just some of the police gangs just located in the Los Angeles area alone. And just thinking through some of their violent actions, they have, matching tattoos, gang parties, and other cult-like ritual initiations. Um, Earlier this year, they were linked to the ritual initiation killing of a young Latinx man in Los Angeles. Um, After backlash around this, the Executioners, which is specifically a deputy gang within the Los Angeles area, has terrorized Black people and even targeted the mayor of Compton.
mm.
So earlier this
Bold.
year, yeah, that's pretty insane. It just shows just the amount of power and free will that they have to kind of rain terror on whoever. But earlier this year, as many as 9 sheriff deputy vehicles swarmed the Compton mayor, Aja Brown, when she was out with her family. They searched her car and her husband while her infant screamed.
Mm,
So a deputy actually exposed the racist gang operating in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. But we know now that this has been going on for many, many years. Um, and they've been known to celebrate again through ritual killings and even engaging sexual assault. Now, Mayor Brown actually called them out directly and she called for an investigation. And she said that she was tired of policing or police terrorizing the community.
right.
Specifically, she has a very powerful quote I wanted to share. She said, "You have the executioners, you have gangs in your house, but the executioners are only one of many police gangs at play." Um, yeah, so this just really highlights the ways in which police don't protect and serve, but they actually cause way more harm than we even recognize within the media.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for bringing in that part of it. Like, I don't think that a lot of us or a lot of people do recognize, but it's nice to like hear the nitty gritty of it and like what's really going on, and really getting down to the truth of it all, which is that there are gangs within, or the police themselves could be considered gang-like. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, to
Yeah.
tap in. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say this kind of calls up a longer history of what policing actually is and how it was birthed. It
Right.
really stresses the overlaps between the police and slave catchers. Most folks don't know that intertwined history. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about that next. But before we go forward, we have a audience prompt. I'm curious for folks joining us, what overlaps do you see between slavery and modern day policing? So feel free to sound off in the chat.
Yeah, I was just checking out some of the comments too. Some folks are chiming in with us. Someone said it's nothing new. Yeah, that's true. That's why we're getting down to the truth of it, so folks can really know what's going on. Somebody said, especially in Compton. I think they were talking about when we were saying that's bold for them to come at the Compton mayor like that.
Yes.
Um, what else we got? Somebody said, "You making sense, man." Thank y'all for rocking with us, hearing us. Yeah, we can keep it moving. I just wanted to check in with the people.
Word. Thank you so much, Bree, and thank you for folks who are chiming in. So we know through history that before the Civil War, states formed slave patrols to police our ancestors. So this actually originated in South Carolina in 1704, where wealthy slaveholders hired patrols to break up gatherings and confiscate educational materials and actually keep their eyes on all Black people at all times. So this
Mm.
is the origins of the police in this country.
Right. And we can't ignore that. And we're Push Black, so we're gonna give you the history of it. We can't ignore the ties between police and slave catchers. And so because back then we were considered property, cops and slave patrols protected that property. So wealthy elite people used racism to uphold inequalities. They would trick poor whites basically into hating us instead of the rich people who were actually exploiting them. And this continues today, among other things. Back during Jim Crow times, we were basically re-enslaved through racist laws and Black codes, and now today through mass incarceration. So prison has become the new slavery that's the still profit off of us through today. And so it just keeps reforming. Policing just keeps
Mhm.
reforming over time, but little has actually changed between those slave patrol roots and modern day cops. And that's what we have to remember. um, there's
Cool.
a lot of time that has passed between then, but not much has changed, and so we can't reform our way um, out of
Mhm.
this system. It's a system.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for underscoring that. So many reforms that are offered, everything from like, Black police chiefs or more diverse police forces, to more funding for police and giving them like secondhand military equipment.
Right.
None of this is translated into increased safety or protection, especially for Black and Brown communities. And just one final note, thank you so much for mentioning that this is actually a system. It's not just the police. It involves the district attorneys, our court systems, especially thinking about Cal Rittenhouse, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's this often misattributed quote to W.B. Du Bois, but it actually came from the Black Twitter space I wanted to share now. But
Oh.
it's that a system cannot fail those it was never meant to protect.
Mm.
This is why we at Push Black believe in abolition as the chief path towards liberation for Black folks.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, and shout out Black Twitter. I didn't know. So people say that this quote is from WEB, from
Yeah,
Black Twitter. Oh,
yeah. Hmm.
dope. We got a few more comments. Let's see what people say. Um, hmm. Saying that basically this happens globally, which is true.
Yes.
Um, let's see. And the 13th Amendment still allows for this to happen. Let's see. Anything else? Cool. Again, thank y'all for tuning in and chatting with us. If anybody wants to drop anything else about this conversation in the comments, let us know. Um, and yeah, we just wanted to bring it all together by saying that and reinforcing the point of this live, and that is to say that the criminal justice system is set up to protect the police. So we must remember that. And like Darren said, reforms like training, civilian review boards, more funding, Black representation, they all obscure the nature of policing, which is those roots and historical roots that we talked about, and the function that policing has served since those slavery times. And so the entire system itself is a problem. And until that is addressed, cops are going to continue to get slaps on the wrist. And other folks like Kyle Rittenhouse are going to continue to get slaps on the wrist because this is how it was designed. We hope that by learning some of these common misconceptions tonight, about policing, about what police do and what they don't do, together we can begin to imagine a new world without police brutality, because that's the world I'm trying to live in.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and for everybody tuning in, again, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate y'all's time. Hope you learned something. Um, and if you have any last comments, you can drop them in the chat box and let us know how you enjoyed this discussion. Um, yeah, I'm gonna just make sure we don't have any more comments.
Yes, yes.
What's
On
tonight?
Okay.
Tuesday night. Darren, what you about to get into after this? Tuesday
After this,
night. Yeah.
Tuesday night, I have to grade 80 final exams. So,
Ooh, we appreciate our Black educators. Thank you for your service. I'm
yes,
gonna
thank
eat
you.
dinner,
All right.
watch a movie or something. So yeah, thank you so much for the conversation. Thanks everybody who joined us, and we'll see y'all in the next live.
All right. Thank you all.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.